Welcome to Keeping Up with Our Community, a podcast for and about Romeo Community Schools. Each week, we will invite different guests to share insights about some unique aspects of our schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. They can get you access to equipment, a production engineer, and you can even edit your podcast. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan, and you can contact them right now via email at mit.tvromeo@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvromeo@gmail.com. Hello, my name is Marianne Brush, and I currently serve as the Communications and Marketing Supervisor for the district. It is my pleasure to host Episode 3 of the Keeping Up with Our Community Schools podcast. Today's episode will focus on the district's strategic plan and progress made in year one of its implementation. With us for this episode are the following district leaders: Superintendent Dr. Todd Robinson, Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services, Ms. Jennifer McFarlane, Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, Mr. Rob Murray, and Director of Special Services, Mrs. Mary Selden. Let's begin with an overview of the plan by Dr. Robinson, where we can revisit the process involved in developing the strategic plan.
Hello, Marianne. Good to be here again with another version of our podcast. It seems like a lot of work and a long time ago that the concept of updating the strategic plan in the district was actually something we began talking about. So back in 2019, myself and the Board of Education began to talk about a roadmap for the future for the district. We certainly had some new initiatives going on and some things that we were planning for, but the district had not done a strategic plan since all the way back to 2011. So we were planning to do it in the fall of 2020, and of course, we know what happened then. And so we put it on hold. In January of 21, we talked a little bit again about, can we stay on that fall timeline? And we ended up deciding in spring that we would just wait one more year. And I think those were all good decisions. So a year ago, August, the board and I took the opportunity to interview 4 different strategic planning facilitation providers. So the Michigan School Boards Association, Michigan Association of School Administrators, they all have leaders who do this contractually. Because I think it's essential when you go into this type of planning effort that there isn't a district leader, the superintendent, or otherwise that's facilitating the work. You bring someone else in to facilitate the work so that those leaders, everyone can be an active participant. So we settled on Michigan Leadership Institute, and Dr. Randy Liepa was our facilitator, and the next step was to form a steering committee. So our steering committee included stakeholders from all groups: staff, administration, teaching, parents, board members, and we began a series of meetings, and the entire planning process took about 4.5 months. One of the things that helped us is we had some results from the school climate survey. We had some other leadership priority planning efforts that had happened prior to going into strategic planning, so we really weren't starting with a blank white sheet. We had some initiatives that we know we needed to continue to dig into, but we were also open to, now that we're past the pandemic, what do we need to focus on to make sure that we're doing the best for students, providing a comprehensive learning experience. Ultimately, by the January of this past calendar year, 2023, the board approved our strategic plan, and we'd like to think that this is definitely a 3-year plan, but maybe as much as 5 years. And when you do strategic planning, there's some key elements that that districts typically or organizations would typically review. And so, that starts typically with mission and vision. And it had been a while since we had updated those type of statements for the district. So we got a lot of great input. We had a smaller subcommittee of our steering committee that really took ownership of the mission statement. We debated ad nauseum over some of the semantics of it, and we settled on, I think, really some key elements. Community is really important in our area and super important to our district. And I don't just mean the community at large. I mean our school district as a working community, our individual buildings in that. So embracing our community while engaging, educating, empowering students to inspire the future is our current mission statement. And our facilitator and the effort said, like, this statement should talk about who we are, and we think it does. But then just like that, you're making some strategic plans for the future. What would be a more forward-thinking vision statement that we hope the efforts under this plan kind of helps us get to? This actually had even more, I think, healthy debate. And our current vision statement is forging pathways through academic exploration guided by the passions of our students, dynamic learning environments, and invested community advocates. And so those three elements really speak to, I think, the heart of what we're trying to do with this strategic plan. And then we also took the opportunity to update our district core values. We had done an initial set of core values in 2019, and the steering committee, after looking at those, said, you know what? We think we really need to go back out and seek input. So we ran a survey or two during the strategic planning effort, and then we also sought input and got input from over 400 of our staff members in terms of updating our values. And so our current core values are respect, teamwork, integrity, balance, and fun. And that's what we value. So that's basically kind of in a quick snapshot of where this whole conversation started, the heart of that 4.5 months of planning. And now we have a strategic plan that really is defined by 3 focus areas. And that's really what I think the podcast needs to dig into. So teaching and learning is one of our focus areas, safety and wellness, and the community of collaboration. And we've got leaders that have led, subcommittees of our leadership team and really have done the heart of the work on that. And I think it's important we hear from them.
Oh, great. So yeah, let's hear from some of those leaders. Thank you for that overview. And for the remainder of this episode, Dr. Robinson will delve further into the details of the plan with our other guests here today.
Well, I appreciate Mary Ann letting me step into the host chair, and even more so the 3 of you taking some time today to talk about really the great work that's happened over the last year. I know sometimes it seems like a blur, and other times we just kind of figure out a way to navigate this along with the other challenges of the day-to-day operations. So I think what we'll do is I'll just introduce you individually, but I want to ask you when I introduce you to just kind of give a quick overview of your focus area. And I think the heart of that really was this idea of you and your team in the steering committee process developing some goals. We remember that Dr. Liepa was big about got to set some goals, and then you got to know how you're going to measure those goals. In the in-between really is the heart of the work. So let's begin with Mrs. McFarland, Assistant Superintendent of Academic Services, and talk a little bit about your focus area, teaching and learning, maybe kind of quantify things for the listeners about what were those goals, but maybe just an overview of what your portion of the strategic plan was looking at.
Sure. So in Teaching and Learn, we actually have 4 distinct goals. 2 of them are related somewhat. So the first one was fully implementing the master plan for our academies at Romeo High School. So as you know, and some of our listeners may know, we launched our academies, and we had a couple of years that it was a little difficult to fully implement things. So we felt that it was important to make sure that we went back to our original plans and fully implemented it. The second area goal in teaching and learning was to align some experiences in pre-K through grade 8 to complement our academies at Romeo High School. So that's really been an exciting goal that I can't wait to talk more about. But it's really developing some opportunities and career exploration for our younger learners. And our third goal underneath our teaching and learning focus area was to expand opportunities for our students, not just in fine arts or STEM or music, but also after school activities and service learning and all sorts of areas where kids would want to take part in. And our last goal in the area of teaching and learning was to enhance our multi-tier system of support. So not only focusing on core instruction, but also the layers of support that students need, not only academically, but maybe some emotional support or behavioral support. So quick overview.
Yeah, we see some evidence certainly of the pandemic and the impact of the pandemic. I think across, a few of the goals within teaching and learning. And so your mention of, just the high school academies implementation, that interruption of arguably at least 2 years, maybe a little bit more, left us in a place where we really had to go back.
Absolutely, because we weren't able to even start some of our initiatives within the master plan because we couldn't get kids out into businesses or businesses into our schools. So we really needed to revisit that. And we're also revisiting our profile of a graduate. We know from our business partners that some of the skills that they're looking for even changed with their work during the pandemic. So it's been exciting to get their feedback and make our progress and getting that fully completed.
So the last thing I would say before we move on to the other focus areas is we hear things like multi-tiered systems of support, and we could throw some educational acronyms at the listener with MTSS and that. So I think we just need to be mindful as we unpack that we pause to explain our educational jargon when necessary. And I heard you say tier one, and so when we say tier one, to the listeners, what does that mean?
Sure, that's the core instruction that happens every day with all students in the classroom.
Okay.
So it could be your Algebra 1 class, it could be the reading instruction that's happening at the elementary level. So it's all students receiving this core instruction at what we call tier 1.
And then we determine, or I should say the expertise of our teachers and support staff begin to glean students who might need more than that, and then that would go to tier 2, 3 or higher.
And 3, right? So it's based on data. So it could be on some assessment data or academic, or it could be we know that a student is having some issues within the classroom with behavior or outside of the classroom. Could be attendance issues. So we look at data, and that informs our need for further support in tier 2 or 3.
So I feel the need to go back to our planning efforts, and there was a lot in teaching and learning. And I think the steering committee, and maybe even more so your focus area team, packed a lot into that goal 4. So there's a lot in that whole MTSS goal area that could have arguably been 3 or 4 other separate goals.
Absolutely.
All right, Mr. Murray. Rob Murray is the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. Him and Jennifer work directly together. And I think it's important that the listeners know that you're both the academic services department, but because of your experience, you kind of divide. And Mrs. McFarland, you kind of oversee more directly that middle school, high school level, and Mr. Murray is more the elementary level. Which it was fun after all the academies conversation that we had strategically to now really begin to focus on our youngest learners and get some things on paper for them. So Rob, talk a little bit about the community of collaboration and some of the goals that focus area includes.
Absolutely. So our community of collaboration has 4 different goals that we're striving to achieve throughout the course of our strategic plan. Goal 1 is to establish consistent structures to promote student voice. So we want school to be the very best place it can be for our students, but if you think of our students as our customers, we need input from them. And, we've started that process, which we'll elaborate on a little bit later about what that looks like so far. Our second goal was to increase the number of community partnerships to support our schools. We already have so many awesome relationships that we've developed between the school and community partners, not only in Romeo, but in, surrounding Macomb County. The majority of those are at the high school level through the academies process. And so we want to kind of reverse engineer that, if you will, and build more partnerships with our K-8 entities through the transformation process that's happening at the middle school. And then towards the end of the strategic plan, we'll see more at the elementary as well. Goal 3 is to strengthen our connection with parents through effective parenting partnerships. This is really about knowing what moms and dads need and want in terms of being able to better partner with us and then to be able to deliver to them through Parent University, through more effective communication. Two keys to achieve that is, again, just this notion of ensuring that we are effective and efficient in the way we send messages and that we're providing time, space, and resources for moms and dads to learn more about the educational process, K-12. And then goal 4 is to grow and strengthen our teacher and staff collaboration opportunities, which is, we'll talk about later, one of our points of pride this year. We've done a really nice job at listening to our different employee groups. We know that professional learning is important in any organization, but most important in schools. And so we've asked, what do you need from us to be better at your job? And then we've been able to deliver on that. Got a few things to continue, again, as we go through the strategic plan, at the end of this year and into next year around vertical planning and articulation. But certainly we're in a good spot.
So I think of a couple things in the steering committee process. We held those focus groups. So we had strategic portions of our steering committee where we opened up to those who weren't specifically on the steering committee, but other like stakeholders like them. And I remember the couple of parent focus groups that we hosted, and when we began to hear some of the elements of communication and effective communication, the cadence of communication, the length of communication. And so I'm just grateful that the process played out to seek that input, and then it's actually now on paper in the plan, and a year later, we've gleaned input, and we're designing and things that we're going to do to hopefully meet the needs of our parents better. The other thing that I think it's probably important we double down on right now is community partners are not all necessarily business partners.
That's correct.
Yeah, so we'll flesh that out a little bit more. So last but not least, safety and wellness. And Mary Selden is our Director of Special Services. And Mary, I don't know why this happens, but it's not just unique to Romeo schools. The minute you start talking about mental health or wellness, somehow the special ed or the special services director becomes the expert. So we appreciate your continued efforts there.
Absolutely, and it's because of our highly qualified staff we have to help support staff and students. We had 3 main goals in safety and wellness. The first was to improve students and staff feeling safe in our schools. We know what we do behind the scenes. We know the safety measures that we have in place, but we want to share that with our community, with our staff, with our students, with parents, so that they can have that reassurance that they are safe when they're at school. With continued practice and that awareness, we're going to increase that feeling of safety. And we've also asked questions in our surveys surrounding safety and how kids and parents are feeling about school. Our second goal is to improve students and staff feeling connected to our schools. This goal had a lot of overlap with our 2 other teams that we were working on the strategic plan with. So with that goal, we want to celebrate the attributes of Romeo Community Schools. We do an incredible job of having countless activities, clubs, sports, community opportunities that are available to everybody. But what we wanted to do was get better at sharing those opportunities so everybody knew what was available, staff and students alike, on how they could stay connected and participate. Our third goal was to create a continuum of district-wide wellness initiatives that empower both our staff and students. So instead of us delivering, that people could choose what's right for them based on that continuum. With that, our goal was to audit and align the wellness resources we already had, conduct a gap analysis, and then build upon that list with additional new resources to support students, staff, and parents.
So here's a question for you, Mary. Had we done this planning effort in the fall of 2020, pandemic removed, would your focus area look the same way it does?
That's a great question. So obviously there's always some core values when it comes to safety and mental health, but post-pandemic and with recent happenings, surrounding us, it definitely takes takes on just a new lens. And so we have greatly benefited by delaying that strategic plan process to have this new information to best serve our students, our staff, and parents with what's going on in the world around us today.
I also remember that whole continuum, all of you would remember this, of safe and connected, and it was students and staff, what's going to be together is, I think at one point in time the goal was staff feels safe and connected, students feel safe, and I think we settled on just this notion of, let's talk about safety because that's unique and got some unique needs for our plan, and let's talk about connectedness. And so I'm encouraged by the work that all of your focus area teams have done, and I think maybe we now dig a little deeper. So I'm going to open this question first to the floor, and maybe a couple of you can comment, and a teaser that maybe this kind of hits on some of the structure or setup of our plan, because we've talked a few times about how if we post the plan on the district webpage, and parents and staff and community members can go review it, but will they understand how this fits together for us? And it's, I would argue most importantly for us to get it, because we got to lead the work and do the work and measure the work, but it also needs to have some understanding. So you've shared your goals. How do we achieve a goal? How is the plan set up to actually achieve these goals? Because they're literally written as goals to be achieved. So a thought or two on how goals are achieved within the plan.
Well, in community collaboration, it's really just been that, right? Our focus area team has put together some strategies that we've set out to achieve. Not only in year one, we've tried to lay out maybe some year two and year three, subject to change based on just, the way things go sometimes. But then we've really tried to work as a team to make some determinations about how we can best, get stakeholders involved and follow through on some of the things that we've built and set out to achieve. I guess an example of that would be around goal one for us, which is student voice. We spent most of this year trying to better understand what opportunities exist for students to give their voice and input, and whether they feel that that's been heard. We developed a common definition of student voice and set out and a set of opportunities that we want students to have, which we'll be implementing to start next school year. And so really it's about just working as a team, IDing how we can best achieve what we've set out to, and then doing it.
So Jennifer, I've heard the word strategies. Pick up from strategies and kind of share a little bit more for our listeners about, we have these goals, and then as Rob shared, there were some key strategies within a goal. Mm-hmm. Where does it go from there?
So I think when you have a strategy, you have to figure out some action steps, and what are you going to do to try to meet that strategy, and have some I call deliverables, whether it be an artifact that you can share, or a survey results that you can share. So I'll give you an example of our goal 2 about aligning some work with our pre-K through grade 8 to the academies at Romeo High School. So, some of our strategies were to really work on that middle school transformation with our Ford NGL partner and community coach, Scott Palmer. And so some deliverables are, we had 3 master planning sessions, and before that we had 1 envisioning, session with community. So parents, staff, students. We'll share that in points of pride. But so we have a strategy, and then we had to address some action steps that we would meet to address that strategy. And then a deliverable will be hopefully soon in year 2, the master plan for the middle school transformation.
Yeah. So Mary, Rob, got us to strategies, and now Jennifer has added a little bit about, these action steps. Did we go at this work and begin to think about the full 3 years, or was it maybe done a little bit more strategically in terms of the planning efforts within each of our focus area teams?
I loved the process that we went through. I've heard nothing but tremendous feedback from everyone that participated. We took the time to build a good foundation of the main goals that we were working for. We dreamed big, and talked about the 3 years like you had mentioned, but also knew that there might be a time where we extend to 5 if we see that we need more time to work on certain individual areas. But that time was so well invested because we truly took the perspective of each and every stakeholder within our school community and incorporated them together. That we started slow to create that foundation, but then we also continued on of where ultimately do we think we want to be past what we can achieve in year 1 or year 2, and we really looked at that big picture of the 3 to 5 years.
So I think your mention of the fact that we've learned in year 1 we had some crossover. Teaching and learning, feels like let's really invest in those opportunities for students, whether they be within the school day or beyond. And then your team was talking about students feeling connected to school, and we started to see some crossover work.
Absolutely. We definitely were sharing goals and action steps with both teaching and learning and community of collaboration. And what an excellent way to just confirm how important collaboration is to our school district.
Yeah. The last thing I would ask you maybe to share a little bit on is I had mentioned that there was some efforts in the district that were already underway or we knew we needed to do, and one of those that connected directly to your focus area was the need for the district to create a district wellness plan. And lo and behold, you got to serve on the wellness committee.
Yep, and Rob Murray joined me with a team of other stakeholders, and we're happy to report that although that process and the schedule of meetings had started earlier in the year when we were still creating our strategic plan, we were able to use the overlap of conversations, the different members that participated in both the wellness committee and the strategic plan creation to influence that wellness plan. And we were happy to finish up and polish it off and be done and start working on those action steps for the wellness plan in May of 2023.
So I remember a period of time because traditionally I think, you, Jennifer and Rob, you've had time at the building level as principals in that, that traditional wellness plan is certainly a requirement, but was a lot more connected to food service and nutrition and things like that. And I remember, Mary, at a point in time in the process where the wellness plan was maybe a little bit higher up in the notion of this is actually a strategy, and members of that committee saying, oh my God, we don't want to be responsible for the whole thing. And we had to make a strategic decision to say, you know what, the wellness plan is an element.
Yes.
The wellness plan is not a full focus area.
It was really exciting to see the balance of overall mental health and wellness, nutrition, and physical fitness and wellness. So it's a nice mix of all 3 areas and is not a food service driven only initiative, and it's been a great collaboration.
All right, so let's maybe dig in a little, and Mary, maybe I'll start with you, and maybe give us some highlights on, you've got a strategy. There's some activity or action steps. Sometimes I think we use that language. Some of the progress that's been made in year 1, because I am grateful that, the board approved this in January of 2023, and then our leadership team kind of took what the overall concept was, and we had to take a couple months to actually make year 1 action plans. So I think if we're honest, our year 1 really was only like 9 months of actual work on the plan. And as we've now transitioned into year 2, we'll get a couple more months of effort on year 2 plans. So so I'll circle back, Mary, and say just give us some progress, some specific examples. I don't think you have to go through every one for the sake of time, but give us some some notion of what progress on these different strategies that help make our goals successful.
Okay, so for goal 1, improving students and staff feeling safe in our schools, one way that we've made a tremendous amount of progress is holding multiple community agency meetings with different local safety agencies, police, fire department of Romeo, Bruce, Washington, Oakland County, Macomb County. And so that's been just a way to stay connected with all of those agencies and to share our safety plan and to help coordinate any efforts with those agencies. Another way that we've made improvements with feeling safe in our schools is looking at the recommendations from our safety audit and then acting on those, improving door locks, improving door numbering, using our visitor monitoring system to the best of its abilities, and expanding to the elementary school level. So that's created a lot of opportunity for us. Goal 2, improving students and staff feeling connected to our schools, again, shares a lot of overlap with our other 2 subgroups. But really, we want to see that staff and students feel connected. They're aware of the opportunities that are available to them, and they have a voice. They have a voice in all of these processes. And then goal 3, creating a continuum of district-wide wellness initiatives. One of the things that was a strategy was increasing digital resources. And so Kristen Famiano, a high school counselor, and I began digging in, looking into podcasting as a possible element to those digital resources. And we were thrilled to have this opportunity with MIT to help host this podcast, and we'll have future wellness opportunities that we can share coming up in future week episodes. But this is such a wonderful opportunity to help us focus on the information and having the support of getting it out to staff, students, and parents.
Excellent promo for the podcast overall. Community of collaboration. Rob, circle back and dig in a little bit to some progress in year 1.
Yeah, I'll give you 3.
Okay.
And they do relate to our points of pride as well. Around goal 1, which is this notion of promoting student voice, the single most important thing that we've done is to actually ask our students, do you feel like you are able to provide input about school, how it looks, how you feel? We're still gathering that information, but it's going to serve us well as we move forward in terms of, again, just trying to make school better than it already is. When you think about goal 3, this notion of strengthening parent partnerships, we've been able to hear from parents about how they want to be communicated with and how they don't, and also listen to teachers as well, how they prefer to communicate with parents. And we're in the process of mining through that data. And, at the end, we will come out with something that I think is going to meet the needs of more folks than we are currently. And then, again, related to this notion of growth, staff growth, just the collaboration that we've had with our employee groups and our ability to support them in their own professional growth, because when they get better, kids get better. It's so simple. It works.
So follow up on that for the listeners. Our parents certainly know when there's no school due to teacher professional development. And I think, your work, all 3 of you, and our principals, we're always taking our meeting time to think about what are the annual professional development topics. And then as we get closer to a PD day, it's typically a meeting or 2 before that day where we're getting more to the what's happening, hour by hour in the day, who's coming in to help facilitate, and where does staff need to be, because we're building an agenda. This strategic effort this year really allowed us to think outside of just our teaching staff and get into some of our support staff. So just any other thoughts on how, I think it's clerical paraprofessionals and things like that this past fall got some training specific to their desires.
Absolutely. So our para group and secretaries group were able to meet with some of our district provided vendors to learn more about functioning in the workplace, healthy relationships, collaboration. They were able to learn more about their contracts, district policies. We have some CPI training that we're setting up moving forward, which is crisis prevention, intervention training, de-escalation strategies. And so, it's not just the teachers who are receiving professional development in Romeo Community Schools anymore. It's all of us.
Great. So Jennifer, how about some progress, made within teaching and learning?
Yeah, so in our Goal 1 area, we've been able to audit the master plan that was written in 2017 to see, where are we hitting the mark and where are some areas that we need to maybe shore up, and where are there some new opportunities that we didn't know in 2017 because we hadn't implemented yet. And so, we're on our way with the new opportunities, and that'll be year 2, one of the year 2 deliverables. And goal 2, those new opportunities to align with the academies at the pre-K through grade 8. We did an audit of our elementary field trips. Let's see where we send our children from, young 5s to 5th grade, just to see were there opportunities there that we could glean from to do some alignment. And then obviously our Romeo Middle School master planning process that took place in those 4 half days that we held this fall. Excited for year 2 to dig in deeper for implementation in the fall of 24 at the middle school level. In goal 3, the idea of expanding those student opportunities, we really needed to understand what the current opportunities were at all of our levels, and then ensure that our students and parents understood what those opportunities were to promote that. Because sometimes we just tell students, or we assume that people understand all of the great things that are offered outside of school, after school, but also some of the things during the day or at lunch and things that happen in our elementary building. So each building took it upon themselves to ensure that promotion of those opportunities. And then goal 4, supporting all students, again, with the Director of Special Services, Mary Selden, we have a handbook with 80-some pages, plethora of any information staff wants, but we also did some cheat sheets, a 2-sided 1-pager with our structures and processes for teachers to meet with support staff, interventionists, social workers, counselors to talk about kids. Exciting. I'm sure elementary parents know the new ELA curriculum. That was an adoption that the board made last spring for implementation this year. And then we have some new K-12 social studies curriculum that's core curriculum that we're supporting with professional development and coaching and such for those new adoptions.
So a lot there, and a year under our belt, and we're rolling. As I said, back at the beginning of today's episode, some of these things connected to the plan have been in place for longer than the planning cycle, and I think one of the key elements of the year 1 of our work was there was just some things we needed to audit and see what do we have. And then, these circumstances where we needed some voice through our surveying. So we just completed the administration of 2.0 of our school climate survey. So, when we did that initial survey back in February of 2022, it was really a recommendation coming out of the pandemic to get some baseline of where your constituents are in regards to the climate of the school district. And so we knew at that time that would give us some information for this planning process, but we also knew that, that was baseline and we needed to go out and survey again. So I think uniquely this time we had a handful of questions that were connected to your focus areas that weren't asked necessarily of parents, staff, and students, but specific to who we were talking to. So an example or two of what those questions are, how you use this administration of the climate survey to maybe give you some feedback for year 2 planning.
Well, for us in community of collaboration, and Dr. Robinson, you're working on this with me, we actually are sitting down with students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, asking them, 5 questions essentially. What do you like best about your school? What could you change at your school? Now I'm drawing a blank, but
we asked them a little bit about opportunities. Are they aware of the opportunities?
The extracurricular opportunities, yeah. And then this piece around, are you able to provide input? Do you feel that you are able to have a say? And it's funny because their initial reaction at times is no. But then they start to think a little bit deeper about, what they can have input on, with the understanding that they may not have the ability to have input on everything.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's going to serve us well, again, to look at that information from the 3-5 focus groups, but also from the middle school and the high school level to, again, make some determinations about how we can ensure that our customers, our students, right, have a seat at the table.
Yeah. Any other examples of that?
I know we piggybacked a little bit, as the listener can hear, there is some overlap between all three of our plan and some of our goal areas. So I know our team is excited to hear about the students. Do they know what opportunities are there for them at the elementary? And I believe one of the questions that was added for the grades 6 through 12 had to do with some of our ideas of opportunity, and are they aware of all of them?
Mary, I think it's baseline, like, we just had simple, straightforward, safe at school questions that were in the original climate survey, and to ask those again and actually just see the level of agreement from students and staff, I think really will provide your focus area team some valuable feedback on how we've done.
We definitely had a lot of overlap questions where we want to see what the results are this time around, but we added in a question about, do you feel connected to a trusted adult at school? And so that's very important for safety and wellness, and overlaps obviously to the other two goal areas as well. But that's just huge. If a kid feels safe and they're able to connect with at least one person at school, then we got them. We can
Yeah.
help them. They know who to go to.
So,
Dr. Robinson,
yeah.
I'd also like to circle back to community of collaboration related to the results of the climate survey and how it's going to push us moving forward. Another critical piece of information that we'll get from this climate survey is feedback from moms and dads about where we can support them and strengthen their relationship with the school district. And so that feedback will have a direct impact on a parent university type event or series of events, whether they're all in person, in podcast form or in video form, to again continue to strengthen our bonds.
Yeah. So, there's you gotta have an analytical side to this, and so part of our planning efforts, we developed your teams. I should say your focus area teams took some time to say, here's our goals, here's our strategies, and the steps we're going to take to hopefully meet the goal. How will we know? And so you designed some measurable objectives that in some cases were, a reach potentially beyond year one. In some cases, maybe not as rigorous to meet. And as we push out our year one summary, we've kind of thought through that a few different ways, and we felt like some narrative around the progress that was made in a focus area is important. But our kind of internal report card, if you will, in terms of what were the measurable objectives for year one, and are those met, completed, or still in progress? So when we look at teaching and learning, if my math was right, I think we set about 13 measurable objectives for that focus area, Mrs. McFarland. And so, not to go through each of those, but how about the examples of a couple that the team determined at the end we're still progressing in those?
Yeah, so we have a couple. We weren't 13 for 13, but our updated profile of a graduate, thanks to digging into the work and some of your ability to get the team together, Dr. Robinson, I think we're pretty close to finalizing that profile of a graduate, which will then impact our ability to look at the middle school and the elementary in the future about, how can we continue to progress towards that profile of a graduate. We're also, the RMS plan is still progressing. We actually have some co-chair meetings next week with the tactic chairs, so that'll be exciting. So those are two of the areas that we didn't quite nail, that we thought we were going to be able to accomplish, but we're still progressing, and obviously those go into our year 2 plan that I'm sure we'll talk about in a few minutes.
I'm catching myself, and when I did the little intro with Mary Ann earlier, I should have clarified that our year one is actually calendar year. And that was a decision we made based on when the planning process was complete. So we often do everything in that school year. So year one really was really 2023 calendar
Correct.
year. And as we enter 2024, we're moving into year two.
Correct.
So what about community collaboration, Mr. Murray?
Yeah, I think the most significant thing that we weren't able to wrap our arms around completely was this notion of vertical articulation planning, right? So teachers across grade levels, if you think of like sixth grade working with seventh grade working with eighth grade, right? To discuss the continuum of learning for students and how what they're doing at different grade levels can complement their colleagues, right? So we have a nice smooth system. It's something that we are going to start in the spring, first building the capacity of our administrative team around what does effective vertical articulation planning look like. And then it seems to make the most sense to deploy at 612 first and then maybe reverse engineer to K5. Although some of the work that we did in our math and ELA subject area team meetings with Ms. McFarland really around ins and outs. So these non-negotiables that kids have to know moving grade to grade to grade. You know, there's so many standards out there. I think one educational researcher said if kids had to master every standard, they wouldn't go K-12, they'd go K-22, right? And so knowing that that's the case, and that's really not possible, you know, what are those most important pieces that kids need to have, readiness, endurance, you know, to be successful in school? And so we quickly learned that it does make sense to have teams of elementary teachers together to have conversations about where struggles are upstream so they maybe can be addressed downstream.
And there's only so much time. So
Correct.
when you focus on tier one instruction and you implement a new K-5 language arts curriculum, like that's a heavy lift, and our teachers are working hard on that. To bring this idea of vertical articulation into them, they may revolt. So.
Bandwidth is low right now, but they're doing a rock star level job.
Yeah, so maybe that's a good example of maybe a little loftier thoughts
Sure.
at the beginning of the planning effort that we've calibrated on later. Measurable objectives on safety and wellness.
So for safety and wellness, so many things are just ongoing by the nature of the category. However, it was nice to see so many concrete examples be accomplished, like having all the different agencies come together for our safety meetings, having the District Joy Award to recognize employees, completing the wellness plan in May of 2023. Those were all great concrete things to see. But some of what is ongoing is sharing updates with parents on where we're at in our safety plan, what the next steps are, what a reunification process could look like. Also continuing to have that culture of collaboration, having our staff work together, getting student voice and feedback. Those are all ongoing that overlap into safety and wellness. And then creation of the digital resources. So here we are today. Here is another digital resource of where parents, students, and staff can access information for safety and wellness topics. And we'll have more to come with mental health professionals on an additional episode in the future. And so there's many things to work on, and that's a good thing because we want to stay current and support our school community.
So let's hit maybe a key point of pride or two for year one within each of the focus areas. Jennifer, what's a point of pride or two for teaching and learning?
So I think that K-5 ELA curriculum adoption and the support that was planned and will be ongoing. I know there's some cool stuff coming in the next few weeks for our K-5 teachers. I think that's a point of pride that, you know, with Rob's support as the, executive director at the elementary level and our literacy coach, Noelle Kazmarchuk, and everyone in the building, reading specialists, principals. I think that's really a highlight. It was a heavy lift and change from what we did in the past, and they're really making progress. And every time I talk to an elementary teacher, they're just so excited about the program and all the information the kids are learning, which is really cool. The other point of pride for me, I was a little hesitant when our community coach for Fort NGL, Scott Palmer, said, "You need kids at the planning table with the RMS transformation." I'm like, okay. Oh my gosh, they were phenomenal. They were so open and not shy about sharing ideas of how we can make the middle school a better experience. And some of these kids are currently eighth graders. We did have some seventh and sixth graders, but these eighth graders, were really about leaving a legacy of improvement. And it was just really cool to hear. And then I'm really excited about our plan to, have our students explore, engage, and empower our eighth graders to make a change in the community. So I can't wait to see how this
Yeah,
lands.
little teaser. We'll
Tease.
we'll bring some of the middle school team back in a future episode to talk about transformation, because it isn't more of the same.
It is not.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Community collaboration, points of pride, Mr. Murray?
Yeah, I think this probably encompasses, many points of pride. But the district subscribing to a telling ain't selling mindset, right? And the fact that we the way that we're handling business tells our stakeholders that we want to listen, right? We want feedback. The work that we're doing with staff, right, for tailored professional development, the work that we're doing with parents around communication and the collaborative piece of some type of parent university event or events, and then our students, right? We know we need to hear from you in order to make school the best place it can be.
So, year two. We've got our year two plans sketched out. I think we affirmed those in large part at our recent district leadership team meeting, and we're rolling earlier than mid-March, like we did in year one, which should fruits of our labor. I guess anything maybe anything new in terms of, we've turned a page maybe in one element of a strategy or something like that. And when you think about year two and what the priority investment is for your focus area, what would you highlight? Mary, why don't you go first?
So I'm excited for the continued engagement again of our local Washington, Romeo, Bruce, Macomb, Oakland, emergency response agencies with our safety planning, again, working on that reunification process and communication to parents. Dr. Robinson, you've done an incredible job leading our district in this area, and I know the county continues to pour in kudos for your work and that leadership. And so that I've been forever grateful for. I'm also excited about the work that our mental health professionals are doing with our students. They are servicing on average about 35 additional gen ed students per building by parent permission slip. And so that has been incredibly exciting just to watch that work that they're doing and provide that extra layer of support that they wouldn't have otherwise within the school setting.
Jennifer, how about for teaching and learning?
Sure. I've mentioned a couple of the year two plans, but I think I'll pull up two that I haven't mentioned yet. One of the goals in the kind of pre-K-8 alignment with the academies at Roma High School are to think about some elementary signature events. And we feel that if we could start with the upper L, grades 3, 4, and 5, and align them to one of our high school pathways and give them a signature experience. So I'm excited. I think we've got 4 and 5 pretty much ironed out. We're bouncing some ideas around for grade 3, but that's pretty exciting. And then to complement the K-5 ELA adoption, we're working with our secondary ELA teachers for an adoption for next fall for new ELA curriculum and materials. And then we'll work with our 6-12 science teachers to extend and expand some of the opportunities within their science curriculum that we currently use.
Great. Community collaboration.
Yeah, we want to take student voice opportunities and go deeper. Right now, not that these things aren't important, but a lot of the voice opportunities that kids have are more superficial, right? What are we going to wear during Spirit Week and, the like. Again, important, but we want to provide kids opportunity to have more control over kind of steering the wheel, if you will, as it relates to school. We want to ask them about school safety practices. Do you feel safe at school? Community service, teaching and learning. What's your educational experience like when you're at school? Student health and wellness, extracurricular enrichment opportunities, are we hitting the bullseye there? What else could we add? And just the classroom environment in general. So we really want to go beyond what you traditionally think as student input opportunities.
So I guess I would just highlight, in the coming weeks, the original strategic plan is posted on the district website under Inside RCS. We will finalize our year one review. That'll give a little bit of summary information. We'll certainly post a link to this podcast. I think our plan, if our plan is right and good, then future podcasts are going to be able to dig a little deeper as the work continues into what this actually means at the student level and the difference we will make for them. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the three of you, because you have more than a full-time job to begin with, and where some of this work kind of does align with what your role is for the district, maybe, and even not having a strategic plan. The ability to divide our leadership team into three groups to, representative of our directors. This isn't just our instructional staff. We've got our support staff departments in that involved in this, and just to be able to navigate that and keep this moving forward. I don't think the effort would be as authentic as it is, and we all have seen in the past iterations of strategic plans that go into a 4-inch binder, get put on a shelf, and they get some energy, in the first maybe year of that, but then after that it just kind of dies off, and you go back and pull the thing off 3 or 4 years later, and it's like, whoa, where did that come from? So I think we're on the road, and to large part your leadership within the focus areas, and look forward to continue to update not only the Board of Education but our staff and our community. And I think you guys get a round of applause for the maiden podcast voyage, and we'll bring Marianne back in for a little wrap up and a little teaser about what the next episode would be. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your insights. It's good to hear the district has made so much progress in just 1 year. To review what we have discussed today, our listeners can go to our website, romeok12.org, and under Inside Romeo, learn more about the strategic plan. Thank you for listening today. If you haven't done so already, we hope you will take the time to listen to our first 2 episodes on the upcoming election millage renewals, the non-homestead operating millage and the sinking fund millage. And tune in next week for our first mental health roundtable, which will provide a mental health and wellness overview from the perspective of a district counselor, school psychologist, and social worker. Thank you for joining us, and tune in next week to keep up with Romeo Community Schools. This podcast is powered by the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan. If you're looking to start a podcast for your business or personal use, look no further than MIT TV. They can get you access to equipment, a production engineer, and you can even edit your podcasts. That's all right here at the MIT TV of Romeo, Michigan, and you can contact them right now via email at mit.tvromeo@gmail.com. That's mitt.tvromeo@gmail.com.